these characters. So I guess for me there's something about that I guess that I enjoy is the fact that you can see it for depending on whatever lens you go with. So I'll go there, I think.
For me, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest did it, and I liked the review that said Insatiable Moon was New Zealand's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and that was good. But I will say that when Mike was writing The Insatiable Moon in 1995, and he'd hand me the chapter after he'd written it, and I was sitting there thinking, this is a movie, this is such a movie. So that drawing as it did on the people that we knew had a real influence on me too.
I'm sad to say, as a filmmaker, that it's a book, really. For me, it was Graham Greene's The Power and the Glory, which doesn't have anything to do with mental illness or mental. It has certainly plenty to do with humanity and compassion and dignity, about a whiskey priest, alcoholic, up against somebody who's a kind of very ideologically correct sort of communist military man, and just the sheer compassion that comes through the brokenness of the whiskey priest. And that to me has become a theme in my life, and everybody repeats it now, but the Leonard Cohen line, there's a crack in everything, that's how the light gets in.
What about the audience? Is anyone what was it for you? Because there was a few nods going on.
Yeah, Cuckoo's Nest.
Cuckoo's Nest?
Mm.
Yeah. Same. Yeah. What about, anyone see Girl Interrupted?
Yeah, awesome.
Harold Pinter's The Caretaker, August 7, 1986, Selwyn College.
Yeah.
The Caretaker.
Anyone else got? Shine.
Shine. Yeah.
The electric Kool-Aid acid test.
Yeah. Yeah, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
What was that?
Kill Your Darlings.
Kill Your Darling.
Yeah.
Kill Your
it's a
Darlings,
film.
yeah.
It was made in 2010, I think.
Yeah.
Just to say that, I think we need a lot of narratives around our lives and about health and mental health. And I've seen Cuckoo's Nest. I've got must be damn near a first edition of the book, but it doesn't do much for me. But I think we do need a lot of narratives around mental health, so that we can think differently and kind of engage differently and challenge ourselves. So yeah, I think all of the movies that people have mentioned, we should all see all of them and see what they have to offer.
I think it's about inclusion rather than exclusion.
Yeah.
It's having something people relate to as opposed to not relate to it.
That's right, and there's something about all the multiple lenses, isn't there? The work of who that talks about a spiritual emergency rather than a mental health crisis. And the whole connection with a higher being, or however that works, and so many people who experience their crisis through religiousness stuff. It was, I can't remember who was it said that mystics walk on the water, the schizophrenics drown in. But it's this whole area, and it's a kind of like it's so linked up. So the exploration is yet to be had. How we go for time now?
5 minutes.
5 minutes? Okay. Is there any questions from the audience you'd like to ask?
Just when looking at One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest again, I sort of just got very clear that the power and control freak, the adult who humiliated and kept in order and kept locked in and without the desire to be free, the nurse over the patients, was astounding. And that actually, when I feel as though I wouldn't want to talk about the patient or the mentally ill person without thinking what mental illness is in the normal.
Yeah. Very good. Yeah. Is there any questions anyone else has got of this illustrious group of people? You have to sit in front of filmmakers or judges, hopefully.
It's not really a question, but I think it's a case of fear versus love, really.
Yeah.
That, you know, if it's not what we are, we're frightened of it and we point the finger at it. And if we can learn that it's within us, we all have it, you know, to greater or lesser degrees, and make our peace with it and come from a different place, that, you know, we're all one, we're all the same.
Mm.
Yeah.
One more, last one.
Yep.
Here we are.
May I ask a question? One, to the director, that's exactly what I was feeling, that your film is the glue over the cuckoo's nest of New Zealand. So my question to the screenwriter and the director is, when will you be working on another film?
Yeah.
What would be the theme and plot of that?
Yeah.
You got one in the bag, have you?
Yeah, well, you know, a screenwriter is always working on something. The average length of a film from the beginning of the concept to coming to screen is 7 to 10 years, so
Well.
it does take a long time. The one that I'm working on that's very close now to completion is about a New Zealander called Archibald McIndoe, who was a plastic surgeon
McIndoe.
during the Second World War, who repaired the horribly burned faces and bodies of pilots who were shot down. And the fascinating thing about him is not the fact that he was a good surgeon, but that he understood that it wasn't just a matter of fixing their bodies, but in order for them to be whole, their spirits need to be healed, they need to believe that they had a future and a hope and a life again, and so he devoted his time and energy to finding ways to provide that for them. So they were, again, it's a lovely story because the guys that he worked with formed themselves into a group called the Guinea Pig Club, and they supported each other, and it was a remarkably kind of lovely human story. So that's the one that I'm working on.
Hey, just a real quick one, Mike. How closely or loosely was the priest in the movie based on you? And were you at all sort of miffed that he was probably slightly better looking than you?
I didn't notice that at all. No, everyone asked that question actually. I mean, there's something of me in the character, yeah, but I didn't set out to make him a clone of me. He's an Anglican vicar for a start.
Yeah.
With an Irish name.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask, were you trying to portray the cultural side of you know, of Māori tongue and the customary, because you don't find it in Once We're Warriors, and it certainly came out in that, what you were trying to portray.
Yeah, you want to speak?
I was going to say that when we had a rough cut of the film and it was shown to a UK audience,
We had footnotes, we had subtitles of the Māori words that we used, because there's one where Margaret goes to get her glasses back and he says to her in Māori, you have eyes but you can't see. And then there's that lovely story we all know at the public meeting when he says, what's the most important thing in the world? He tangata, it's people, it's people. And the British audience said, take those subtitles out. It doesn't matter that we don't know the words. And I thought, and we did take them out, and I thought that was fascinating because, you know, some people might miss some of the words, but really it doesn't matter. But it was Rawiri who injected such a powerful presence. And when we were filming the public meeting, when he came in, that shock on everyone's face was actually the first time they'd seen him interrupt, so that was genuine shock. Right. And there were genuine tears there. We didn't ask anyone to cry in the meeting or be affected by it. But I think it was Rawiri who really carried, obviously, the words in the script. But
I think the showing of the spirituality of Māoridom, and which incorporates with the mental health.
But it certainly was intentional, and If you ever get to read the book, there's a lot more that goes on, like in Arthur and Margaret's lovemaking. We've got the Maori creation myth sort of being played out,
And it takes a whole chapter.
The sex scene takes a whole chapter. It's much shorter in the film. The director didn't want to go there.
It's called subtlety.
If you just allow me to kind of take that on, I always, whenever there's a movie, right, and it features a prominent Māori character, there's always a part of me that just thinks, oh my God, how is this going to be portrayed in the media? How is this going to be seen by the general public? How many people are going to think that when they see something that this is what Māori are, if you're with me? From a counselling perspective, I do think that there's a bit of irony that the way that Māori practice well-being and practice wholeness pre-treaty was systematically destroyed through laws and policies. Now, almost 200 years later, we now have people going around and say, well, guess what? Now let's talk about wholeness, let's talk about connection. We've got this fantastic research that shows that it works. When actually 200 years ago, that's the way that it was. And I think the last thing I just wanted to touch on was the fact that, the fact is that Māori language is still, if we're not careful, will die out. And I think from the movie perspective, it's nice to actually see the Māori language being used. And that way it kind of keeps the survival of it going in some form.
I actually thought that it portrayed the spirituality of Māori. It actually enhanced the spirituality
Yes.
of Māori, and that's what you're trying to grasp. And I think that's really important to put across the customs of Māori, and because customs of Māori are totally separate to the Pākehā point of view. And just their ways and their perceptions, the ideologies of Māori are so separate to Pākehā. So you brought that out.
Well, the gift comes from the real Arthur, the person who I knew. The gift comes from him. I mean, I tried to recreate some of what he brought, and when Rawiri was doing the film, he said, "This is fundamentally a Maori story," and I want
Well,
to.
it's Kiwi and it's brought it out better than Once We're Warriors, and I think